In the next 1 hour, you'll learn how to build a basic full stack application from scratch without using a single line of code. Hi everyone, I'm Ishan Sharma, and today it is possible for you to build full stack applications all thanks to Pythagora AI. Pythagora is an incredible tool through which you can build entire applications without writing a single line of code yourself, entirely made with the help of AI. I'm not talking about demo applications and simple tools here and there, but actual production ready code which you can deploy directly and let your users use it from scratch with the help of Pythagora. Make sure you watch till the end. There are timestamps so that you can go through each of the segments, each of the tasks, and see it for yourself how it actually works. Today we are building a CRUD app using AI, in which you would be able to generate any blog post using AI. You can update the blog post, you can view the blog post, you can also delete the blog post. We will let people log in using authentication and enter their own API keys to access either OpenAI or Anthropic LLM models to write their own blog posts. So this is going to be a CRUD app. I call it GRUD app because you're generating with AI. You're able to update, you're able to read, you're able to delete any blog post as well, all in this one video. Watch till the end. But before we get started, there are a few requirements that you need to have. If you have never written a single line of code, this is the video for you. You just need to have a few basic requirements. The first one is to download Visual Studio Code. You can just search Visual Studio Code on Google and you will be able to download it depending on the system that you have. Windows, Mac, Linux, you can download it respectively on the website. The second requirement is for you to have Node.js installed. Again, the description will have one line that you have to enter in the terminal, and then you'll be able to have Node.js installed in your system. The third step is to actually have MongoDB installed in your own system itself. Again, the description will have information on how to do that. It's just a couple of lines that you have to enter and you will have all Node.js and MongoDB installed as well. You will also need Python to be able to run this. Again, it should come pre-installed in your system if you're using Mac or even your PC. There will also be a link in the description to know how can you install Python. But if you have all of these things, you are very well good to go to start building the first app with the help of AI from scratch. One thing to note is that this is Pythagora V1 that I am getting access to before it is launched. So I was able to get access before so that I can create this video for you, and you will be able to access it if you are able to view this video on the internet. So go ahead, try it out with the link in the description, and let me show you how it works in 3, 2, and 1. So this, as you can see, is Visual Studio Code. Now you have to install the Pythagora extension. The way you do that is you have to go into the extensions tab here and just type Pythagora like I have done over here. When you open this, this is what you would see. So you can install it. I already have it installed right here. And once you do that, you will see this icon right here, which is actually the Pythagora logo. And this is what it would basically look like. So on the right side, you have this place which says experience the future of software development, create a new app, which is what we'll be exploring. On the left side, you have the Pythagora chat, which is similar to any other chat bot that you might have used. So you can ask questions, like how do I install Node, or how do I install MongoDB, or any other problem that you're facing over here. So once you have the dependencies installed, which is Node, MongoDB, and other things that I've talked about previously, we can now jump in and start creating our blog application. So what you have to do is you simply go and click on create new app. You have to wait a couple of minutes. It is going to ask you what is the project name. So again, as I said before, Pythagora is all about giving it instructions, and it's going to walk you through the exact step-by-step process that it takes to build something from scratch. And as you're going to see in the next few minutes, it's going to ask me a lot of questions. So if I go over here, it's going to ask what is the project name. Let's just call it AI Blog Writer and press on send. So now the next step is to describe the app is in as much detail as possible. So this is the most important part of using Pythagora to build any app from scratch. You have to be very descriptive in what you want the app to do. Every single function, every single page you would want it to create, and other required information as well. And the thing that we are building today is basically a simple CRUD app wherein you can go and write your own blog publish it and view it as well and delete it as well. In this case, the special thing about the app that we are building today is that it's going to use LLMs to actually write the blog that we want. But we can choose between OpenAI or Anthropic, which is basically between ChatGPT or Claude, right? So that's basically what we're building today. So I have a description ready that I want to show you, and that will give you an idea for how you can converse with Pythagora. So what you can see on your screen is the description that I have written. Right now, it might look huge to you, but it is very simple, and let me break it down to you. It starts with the first line, which says, I want to create an app that enables users to get blog posts written by an LLM based on users' input, right? This is exactly what we want to create. I want to have the following pages. So you're basically telling Pythagora what type of pages you want it to create and in as much detail as possible. What are the input fields you want? What are the buttons you want to create? Do you want the user to log in, register? How does it all work? So as you can see, the first is the authentication page. That is where people will actually register and log in or log out as well. So we've just given it an idea that we want you to create an authentication page from scratch. The next one is the home page with a welcome message, right? Now, if the user is logged in here, there should be a button to write a new blog post and a list of users' previously written posts. So basically, we're just giving it all the logic that if the person is already logged in, you have to show all the previously written blog posts, and you can also have a button where people can click on that and create their own blog post. As you can see, for each blog post item, the user should be able to edit it, view the published link, and delete the post. This is where the whole CRUD functionality comes in. If the user is not logged in, there should be a button to log in, as I've told you before. The third page that we wanted to create is a blog post creation page. This is where we'll be using LLMs, either OpenAI or Anthropic, to actually create our blog from scratch. As you can see, I've described on this page, I wanted to have the input field for blog post title. I have created multiple input fields for it, right? The first one is going to be the blog post title. The second one is the input field for the tone in which I want the blog post to be written. So maybe you want it to have a professional tone, maybe you want it to have a dramatic voice. So you can enter that over here. Next, we wanted to have an input field for the number of words that I want the blog post to contain, right? So maybe you are writing for some application and maybe you want it to be under 500 words. So you can mention it and you can get more precise blog posts without you having to edit a lot of it yourself. So that is really helpful. Next, a text area where the user will write topics to avoid in the blog post. So it is possible that you don't want some particular topics or you don't want certain things in the blog post, right? Now, let's say I have made a blog post about, let's say 5 things you can do with ChatGPT, right? That is the blog post that I have. And now it's going to write very obvious information, like plan an itinerary or create a routine or things like that. So I can don't mention these points. So when you do that, you get more precise results at the very end of it, right? Next up is a button to generate the blog post, a button to regenerate the blog post as well. So maybe you don't like the generation that you got. So you can regenerate it with this button right here. This should be visible only if the blog post was generated at least once. Again, this button will only be visible once you've generated the blog post once. Next up, you want a button to publish the blog post, right? So let's say you are satisfied with the generation that you got. Now you can press this button to actually publish it, and this will be visible for anyone out there. A drop down to select an LLM provider. As I said, we are giving the user the option to choose between OpenAI or Anthropic, right? And a drop down to select the LLM model. So maybe you want to go ahead with GPT-4 or you want to go ahead with GPT-4o. So you have that option right here in this drop down. Now, when the user clicks on the generate button, the chosen LLM should generate the post, right? LLM prompt for generation is written below and it should be shown to the front end. So once it generates, it will be visible on the front end, on the blog site itself. Also, add a loader while the post is being generated. This is very important because sometimes it takes time for the API to get the response, right? So you want there to be a loader while you are getting that blog generated from that LLM. Once the blog post is published, it should be available on a URL that is accessible by anyone, that we already know. But as you're seeing, we are describing in as much detail as possible what we want the blog post to be about, right? The fourth page we want is going to be a published blog post page. So this is where people can click on the blog post and actually view it and read it in length. So this page should be the one on which the published blog post is visible. It should have a unique URL for every published post. This page should contain the blog post title, the content, a like counter, and the like dislike button. Basically, if you've used Medium, you want it to be able to like it, and there should be a like counter as well. So it's very similar to that. And there should be a button to share the blog post on Twitter, right? So let's say you want to add a social angle to it. If you want people to retweet about it or talk about it on social media, so we just have a button to share it on Twitter. Likewise, you can do it for Facebook and Instagram and other places as well. Next up, we have the admin page. Now, because we are giving people the option to choose between various LLM models, they will have to actually add their API keys for OpenAI and Anthropic. So basically the way this works is that if you're using these models, you will need your own unique API key. So for example, I can just go here and search OpenAI API, and I will get the OpenAI platform and the API keys for it, right? So like that, you can go in and create your own custom API key. Once you do that, you can then just paste this API key in the admin page. The same is true for Anthropic API. So you'll get, as you can see, workplaces in the API console of Anthropic. So you can do that and you can get your own unique API key. Once that is done, you can enter those API keys and you'll be good to go to generate the blog posts. So we've described all of that. So now we have the 5 main pages. This applies for anything that you want to build. Maybe you want to build a social media website. Maybe you want to build a chatbot. Whatever you want to build, you have to describe in detail what you want to be visible on every single page. And that is going to be really important. The next one is the 2 available models, right? So this is basically the name of those models. So we have OpenAI GPT 3.5 Turbo, GPT-4 Turbo Preview, GPT-4o, 4o Mini, O1 Preview, and O1 Mini. So these are all the different models that you can choose from the drop-down menu in OpenAI case when you're generating a blog post. Next one is for Anthropic. Again, as you can see, Claude 3 Opus, you have Claude 3 Haiku, and you have Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So these are all the various LLM models that you can choose in the drop-down menu. The next up is the actual LLM prompt. So far, we have described what you want the pages to look like and the different LLM models. Now you have to describe what is the command that you want to send to the LLM model through this API. And it is this: write a blog post, and this is the technical way to do it, about the blog post title in the following tone. So you have blog post tone, make it that this is the length. So how many words do you want it to be? So blog post length in words long. So you want it to be 500 words long, for example. Do not use the following topics in the post, and then we have the topics to avoid section. So this is basically the whole description that you have to give if you want to build anything in Pythagora. So what I'll do is I'll just basically copy it. This whole thing, we will come to the Pythagora extension right here and we're going to paste it here. And next thing, we will press on ship. And what you will see now is Pythagora will think through every single step of this application. So as you can see, checking the complexity of the prompt, planning project architecture, selecting starter template. So it's going to build a very simple starter template for you to execute on. So this one says, do you want to use the Node Express Mongoose template? I'm just going to go ahead and say yes, picking technologies to use. Now you can actually see everything that it is doing from scratch. So it says Node.js is available. Then it says MongoDB is available. Then it says applying project template, Node plus Express plus MongoDB. This is basically the technology on which this whole app will be built. So Node is going to help you set up the server. The MongoDB is where you will be storing all the information, all the blog posts and everything. And you will also have a authentication system. So it is creating all of that via Bootstrap 5. So Bootstrap is basically a very simple way for you to display all the information that you have. It's a CSS package or template, you can call it. So as you can see, it's creating the development plan. If you will go in, you will see it has various epics. So under every epic, it will create multiple tasks that you can actually see, and you can see the progress of each task as well. So it's very step-by-step systematic way to go ahead. right? So if you will see here, Epic 1 is implement the home page with a welcome message, login button for unauthenticated users, and a button to write a new blog post for authenticated users. This is the first thing that it will start to build. The next up is to create the blog post creation page with input fields for title, tone, word count, topics to avoid, and buttons to regenerate. Generate and publish the post. So that is the second part. The third one is implementing the LLM integration. That is where it will be sending that LLM prompt that we have written to the LLM through the API key, right? For blog post generation, including the ability to select different LLM providers and models. Next up is Epic 4, where it will develop the published blog post page with a single unique URL. Then it will implement like, dislike functionality and a button to share on Twitter. And at the very end of it, it will create an admin page for users to add their own API keys. So as you can see, everything is happening very systematically. If you go down, starting new task with description. So it will start with this first epic, right? So it will create a simple home page. It is asking, do you want to execute the above task? And I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, let's do it. And it's going to take a couple of seconds to get back to us with a simple home page. So as you can see, it actually thinks through every single thing that we are telling it to do. So as you can see, it says thinking about how to implement this task. It's going to break down the task into multiple steps, and it is going to create our various pages. So as you can see, we have index.ejs, you have server.js, which is where it's going to use Node and Express. And it's writing the code. As you can see, we got some code written automatically. And so far, I've not touched the actual code base. As you can see, it's writing the code automatically. My hands are here and we see code written automatically with the help of Pythagora. Okay, brilliant. So we have the basic thing written out. This is the first epic. Here are the different steps that it wants us to run. So the way this works is that it will execute one epic and then it will ask us to execute all of these different steps. And once everything is working, I can just go ahead and click this green button which says everything works. If it does not work according to what I wanted to do, I can say there is an issue. If you look at the step 1, it says start the server using npm start. Now, the good thing over here is we have a button which says start the app. So I'll just click on start app and it's going to open up localhost 3000, and as you can see, our bare bones AI blog writer is good to go. So this right here is the main page. This is the first step. As you can see, it created that server and now we can see the home page. So we are good to go with that. The second step it is asking, open your web browser and visit, which you already did. Step 3 is click on the login button. So what I'm going to do is click on the login button and let's see what is the other task. Expected result, you are redirected to the login page at localhost 3000/auth/login. And as you can see, we are at localhost 3000/auth/login and this is the login page. Next step is enter valid credentials, username and password, and click the login button. So I'm just going to go ahead and register first, right? Let's register and enter our name. Let's just call us as Jarvis, because why not? And password can be I love you 3000. Register and we are good to go. So now we can log in over here. I'll just enter that again, Jarvis. Okay, so I've logged in and I see this new button which says write new blog post and I have an option to log out. So we are good to go with the 6th step as well. And the last one is navigate back to the home page by visiting localhost 3000, and we're already on localhost 3000. So we have passed all the steps. Everything is working as expected. So I will go here and say everything works. So we're good with that. It is now going to move on to the next task, right? Which is to implement a route to handle the write new blog post button click, which should redirect to a placeholder page for now. So it asks, do you want to execute the above task? I will say yes. Let's wait for a while. Thinking about how to implement this task. It's going to break down each task into steps and it's going to edit the files that you can see right now, server.js, and it's going to also write a new EJS file called writeblog.ejs. But again, I'm not coding at all. It's doing everything by itself. You can also see it says +12 and +8, which is basically the lines of code it is adding. And now it is determining how to test the application. So it is one thing to write the code. The next step for Pythagora is to actually create the test for the app. So the first step is to start the server. As you can see, visit local 3000, Click on the login button, log in with your credentials. Assume you have already registered an account. If not, register. And the next step is on the home page, click the write new blog post button. Expected you to redirect to a new page with the message blog post creation and blog post creation page coming soon displayed. Action, click the URL in the browser and we can now execute this. So I'll just click on start the app and we now have this new app ready. I'll just click on write new blog post. And as you can see, this new page is active. It says blog post creation page coming soon. So we didn't go through the step 1 through 4 because we've already done that in the past. We can again do that by logging out and logging in, and we can just click on write new blog post and we are good to go. So we are good to go and I can again press everything works. Okay, the next step is to create a new EJS view for the blog post creation page with input fields for title, tone, word count, topics to avoid and buttons for regenerate, generate and publish. Again, you don't need to know anything about what is EJS and how is it working under the hood. You just need to click on executing the above task and I just say yes. It's going to do the same for me. So now it's making the page in which I will actually create the blog post using the LM model. Could be OpenAI or Anthropic. Now, while it is doing all of this, you can also go and look at the other tabs, which is logs, which is where you can see what is happening behind the scenes. So you can see the front end and the back end log as well, right? So when we create a new account, we get this user ID created for us. We have progress in which you can see every epic and the tasks involved in each. So as you can see, we got done with the first epic. Now we are looking at the second epic and task 1, which we have already completed. The next one is deployment, which will come to later on. Now we have to again do the human test, which is start the server, visit localhost, click the login button, read credentials. Step 5 is click on the write new blog post. And the 6th step is the new one in which we have input fields for all blog post title, tone, word count, words to avoid. So I'll click on start the app. Once again, I'll again log out for you to see. We'll go with Jarvis and we have our account. I'll click on write new blog post and now I can see this whole page for me. So I can start by writing, let's just say we want a blog post about the large language models. The tone can be curious. Word count can be, let's say, 300 words. Topics to avoid, we don't want to talk about, supervised learning, unsupervised learning. We want to specifically talk about large language models. So we've given that as the topics to avoid. Then LM provider, we can go ahead and pick between OpenAI and Anthropic. I'll just go with OpenAI and I can select a model over here. I'll go with GPT 3.5 Turbo and I can now click on generate the blog post. Again, the next step here is try filling out the form with the valid data. Expected result, the generate blog post button should become enabled once all the required fields are filled out. And the next thing is click on generate blog post button. Expected result, since the generation logic is not yet implemented, which we will do in some time, nothing will happen, but the regenerate blog post and publish blog button should also become enabled. So if we click on generate blog post, again, nothing really happens, but now these two buttons are also clickable. So we are done with all the steps in this task right here. So we can go and say everything works over here and move on to the next task. So as you can see, everything is happening very systematically. There's no guesswork or everything is happening in front of you. Next up, it says implement the server side route and controller logic for rendering the blog post creation page. Do you want to execute? I'll say yes. So another thing you can do while it is being generated is that you can click on this arrow button to see exactly what is happening, right? So if you are curious, you can always click here and get more information. But we are now about to complete this task. You can see all the changes in the lines of code. It's happening automatically right here. And then we have the human test once again. So again, it's all about starting the whole app, logging in. And when you write the new blog post, you should be redirected to the blog post creation page, create post. The page should load without errors and display the form for creating a new blog post. Okay, let's try to start the app. If I try going to localhost, it says the site can't be reached. Let's try stopping and starting again. Let's try opening and it's still not opening. So let's see what is happening in the logs. So what you will see is that there is an error right here. So it says some error that I don't know about and even you wouldn't know. So there's no need to panic. This is very normal whenever you're creating software from scratch, and you just need to communicate this with Pythagora. So what you would basically say is, instead of saying everything works, you'll actually say there is an issue. And you will say, and it asks you, please describe the issue you found and share any relevant server logs. So you will say, when I try to open the app, it doesn't start, for example. And here is the server logs. So you're basically giving it the problem that you're facing, which is basically the logs, and it will then look at that and try to fix it. So you will copy the server logs, and then I can just click on enter, and it's going to figure out the problem. So as you can see, it says bug hunter agent, which is going to figure out every single thing which is going wrong right now in our code. So again, breaking down into task. So it has given us the answer for this, which says you can reproduce the bug like this. Okay, let's just try to start this app again and see if it is able to fix it or not. If I open local host 3000, it is working, good to go. So I'll click on login. I'll start with Jarvis, everything works, write new blog post, and we are good to go. Now you can keep doing that. I asked it to execute the next step, and it did that to basically take all the information from the form on the front end and then use it to generate the blog, right? So it did that and it gave me this next step of things to check. So this is again the next human step for us. So again, the normal one, to log in with the credentials that we have, click on the write new blog post, and we can now fill in the information with the following details. So I'm going to click on start the app. I'm going to go to local host 3000. We'll log in and we'll go and click on write new blog post, and we can enter the following details that is mentioned in step number 6. So it says test blog post. So we'll just enter test blog post for 300 for the word count, politics for the things to avoid. Provider is OpenAI, and as it says, select a model. Now, one thing you will notice here is that we are not getting a drop down for the various OpenAI models, right? So let's ask that to Pythagora. So we'll just say that there is an issue, and it will describe it, and by saying that I am able to enter all the details in the fields in the create blog post page, but not able to see any options in the LLM model dropdown when I select OpenAI in the LLM provider dropdown, right? So we'll just mention the problem that we are facing. Let's just see, here are the server logs, and then we can just click on enter. So let's see, what does it have to say? AI is deep in thought. AI is crunching the numbers. It's going to update a few things. So let's just start the app and open up localhost 3000. We'll click on write new blog post, and let's try to enter all the stuff. So we'll say test blog. We'll say tone was informal, 300 word count. Politics was the topic to avoid. We'll go for OpenAI, and now you can see we have all the models to choose from. So I'll just go ahead. Let's see what model it was asking me to choose. We have to choose the GPT 3.5 Turbo. So I'll just go ahead and choose that. And the next step, it says, click the generate blog post button. A loading indicator appears, and after a few moments, the generated blog post content is displayed below the form. The regenerate button and the publish button becomes enabled now. So we'll just go and click on generate blog post. And as we can see, failed to generate blog post, please try again. Okay, so one thing you'll see is it says failed to generate the blog post, please try again. Now this is happening because we haven't entered the API key yet, so it doesn't know how to create the blog post. But what you will see is that the step 8 and 9 is not working because it says click the regenerate post button, and it says the expected result is the loading indicator appears again, and after a few moments the blog post content is updated with the new generated content. But again, that is not happening here. So this is also an error. So we can actually ask Pythagora and tell it about the thing that we are facing. So we'll again say there is an issue. We'll describe what the issue is about. So we'll say when I click generate blog post button, I get this error. Paste this right here and I say also buttons regenerate blog post and publish blog post aren't enabled. And here are the server logs. We can copy the logs and we can also just say, I know this is maybe because I haven't yet entered the API keys for the LLM models. And now we have described the problem that we are facing, and now we can just click on enter. So now it's going to debug that problem that we are facing. You can actually see what is happening under the hood by clicking this arrow, and that will show what is it thinking, what is it working on. Breaking down the task into steps, it's going to update some of the code that we have right here. And let's see what does it say. You can reproduce the bug like this. To reproduce the issue, the user experience, log in to the AI bug writer app and navigate to the blog post creation page. For all the required details, generate blog post button without having entered the key or Anthropic in the admin page. This should result in the error and the regenerate and blog post button will remain disabled. I'll just say I don't have the page yet to enter the API keys, and I'll just say enter. And it's going to understand that, okay, we first need to work on the API keys page and then actually the buttons will start to work. So it works systematically one by one. If I open it again, I can click on write new blog post. Okay, now before we click on generate the blog post, you have to notice this one new tab we have, which is called as the admin. Now, this is the place where we will actually enter the API keys that we have. So if I go over here to admin, I should be able to see these two input fields. One is for the OpenAI API key and the other one is Anthropic. Now I have my own API keys. You can generate your own by just going to the OpenAI site, the developer side of it, and creating your own API key. So this is my API key right here. I'll just copy it and paste it here. You can find your own very easily. If you're facing difficulty, you'll find information in the description of the video. And I'll just click on save my API keys. Now it says error saving API keys. So again, you don't need to panic. We can just go ahead and say failed to save API keys, error saving API keys. We'll just copy this and we'll say okay. I'll just say yes, the issue is fixed. And over here, you know what we'll do is we'll just say there's an issue. And over here, we'll just say that in the admin page, when I try to enter my API keys and click on the save API keys button, I get the following message. Let's just call it message. And we can, here are the logs. You can copy the logs and we can just simply click on enter. And it's going to help us fix the bug. So, you know, it's a very iterative process. You will never have a situation in which you just click on make me this, it makes it, and you click on run and it is working. It's all about coming up with ways to solve the error by actually working together with Pythagora. And that is what it's trying to fix. So it's going to update some of the code and let's see what does it say. Okay, so it says to reproduce this issue, log in to the app, go to the admin page, enter your OpenAI and Anthropic API keys and click on the save API key. Try generating a blog post to observe the error related to the undefined ID property. So let's do that. I will click on start the app. We'll open localhost. We'll click on write new blog post. First, let's go to the admin and actually copy the keys that we have. This is for Anthropic and this one is OpenAI, and we'll click on save API keys. So as you can see, it is now working. It says API keys saved successfully. We'll click on OK and we'll again go back to the home. We'll click on write new blog post and we can finally start writing test blog post. We'll say informal 300 politics OpenAI 3.5 turbo, and we can click on generate the blog post. We can see the loader and we finally have the blog post generated. Now with that, we can also now experiment with the other two buttons, which is the regenerate blog post. If you want to, ask the model to reproduce it. So it has done that right here. So as you can see, things are actually starting to work. So we can just go ahead and say, yes, the issue is fixed. And it will give us more steps. regenerate blog post. It regenerates, verify the published blog post button is enabled and can be clicked. The actually publishing functionality will be implemented in a future task. If all the steps are working, the task has been completed successfully. So again, everything is working. We can just go and say everything works. Moving on to the next task is to implement server-side logic to handle the blog post generation request and store the generated post in the database. So this is where we're going to store it in the MongoDB database that we have. We'll just say, do you want to execute? I'll say yes. We can also see the progress that we have. So we are at epic 2 and the last task is being completed. And then we'll move on to epic 3, 4 and 5. But it's updating all the other files with code. And we will now have a way to actually test all the new code that it has written. So again, the first few steps is just to log in, create your account, write a new blog post, enter all of this information. Then it says generate the button. A loading indicator should appear. Click the publish button. You should see a successful message indicating that the blog post has been published. Action is return to the home page by clicking on the home link. The home page should display the newly created blog post in the list of your posts. Click on the title of the newly created blog post. You should be redirected to a page displaying the full content of the blog post. And the last step is to verify that the full content of the blog post is displayed, including the title and the generated content. And as you can see, the page should show the complete blog post content as generated earlier. So this is the step in which it is actually going to show the created blog post. I'll just click on start the app. We'll open this again. As you can see, write a new blog post. We'll just say something around Iron Man. Tone should be curious. Word count can be 200. Topics to avoid, let's just say Infinity War. OpenAI. GPT, let's just go with 4.0 this time and click on generate blog post. And in some time, we have this complete blog post created on the topic that we've selected. Now we can also regenerate this blog post if we want. And if this looks good, we can click on publish the blog post. And now if you go back to the home, you should see 2 Iron Man posts because I clicked on publish twice, which we can fix later on. We can ask it by saying that, if I press publish 2 times, it publishes the blog twice. So you can fix that problem as well. But now you have a working blog post, which you can click on view, and this page is not really created right now. So we'll see that there is an issue because when you click on the title of the newly created blog post, you should be redirected to a page displaying the full content of the blog post, and we are not getting that. So we'll just copy this and we can just say that there is an issue. After creating my blog post and publishing it, I go to the home page and tried clicking on the view button to view it. It says the following: page not found, and here are the logs. We'll copy server logs and let's just ask Pythagora what is the problem. And it has said to reproduce the issue, follow these steps: log in, publish the blog post, click the view button. So let's actually do that again. Localhost, I'll click on view. There was an error serving your request. So I'll now copy the backend logs and click on enter so that Pythagora understands what is happening in the backend. Please share the relevant frontend logs. I'll just say continue without the logs. Let's try to do this again. It says to follow the whole steps again. So I'll just click on start the app. I'll again open up localhost. I'll click on view. And now we are able to completely view the blog post. We can see the headline, the whole content, and published on the date as well. So now we'll just say that yes, the issue is fixed and everything works. So the next task it's saying is to implement the LM provider and model selection in the blog post creation page. This is something we've already done. If you will remember, if you go to write a new blog post, we already have this enabled. So it's working for us, which means we can just skip this task. Now it says starting new task with description, implement the blog post generation functionality using the selected LM provider and model. I can again skip this. Again, this is something that we've already done. So we can again skip this task. So we can move ahead, implement the blog post regeneration functionality. We've done that. I showed you if you click on the regenerate button, it recreates it. So we'll just go ahead and click on skip the task. Then it says create a new route and view the published blog post with a unique URL. If you go here on home, we can view our blog posts. I can click on view, and this is a unique, URL. If I will show it to you, this is the URL. So we can again say skip this task. Implement like and dislike functionality for published blog post. Now, yes, this is something that I don't think is active. If we go here, I don't see a like button. Even if I go to the home page, I don't see a like button. So we'll just say, yes, I want to execute the above task. All right. So it has created something and given us multiple steps to test what it has written. The first one is just to write a new blog post. In the blog post creation, title, tone, everything we will enter. Click the publish button to publish the blog post. Go back to the home page by clicking on the home link. Click the published blog post link to view it. And then click the like button on the published blog post page. Expected result, the like count should increase by 1, right? And then click the dislike button on the blog post. It should increase by 1, the dislike count. Then the next step is refresh the blog post page. The like and dislike count should persist and display the updated counts. Make sense? That's how we want it to be. Repeat steps 9 and 10 to ensure like and dislike functionality works multiple times. Okay, let's actually do this. So I'll click on start the app. I'll open it up again. We will go to view and we will try to like it. It is increased by 1. Dislike, increase by 1. Like 2. Dislike 2. And if I refresh this, it still persists. So this seems to be working. Now again, if you are one user, you should either be able to like or dislike it, right? And you should only be able to like it once because you're one user. So you can again implement that by asking Pythagora that I only want it to happen once. I don't want there to be a counter. So you can always do that. But this is basically me showing the functionality of what you can do over here. Again, if I will refresh, the like counter and the dislike counter persists over here. Now everything is working. I'll just say everything works and move on to the next step. It says add a button to share the blog post on Twitter. Yes, I want to execute this. Click on yes. Okay, so we are almost done with the whole application that we wanted to build. This is I think pretty much the last thing that we have to do. We'll again go to home link. Click on the title of a newly created blog post to view the published blog post. Click on share on Twitter button. So let's try to do this. I'll click on start the app. Let's go ahead and open localhost and click on view. Let's click on share on Twitter. And it's going to open up my Twitter account for me to just share this link. Now, yes, this link is localhost right now, but once we deploy it, we'll actually have a link that anyone can use and access. So this is working fine. Everything works great. As you can see over here, we have been able to create a fully functional blog writer with the help of AI. You can select which model you want, which provider you want. You can view it, you can edit it, you can delete it if you want to do that. If I go back to home and try deleting it, nothing really happens. If I click on edit, again, nothing happens. So this is again a time for us to go and ask Pythagora to actually solve this issue for edit and delete. So far it's working fine. So we'll click on everything works. Create an admin page where users can add their API keys. We've already done this, so we'll skip this step. Implement functionality to save and retrieve user specific API keys in a database. We have done this, so we will again click on skip the step. And now we have update the blog post generation process to use the user's API keys. We're also done with this. We'll again click on skip task and your app is finished right now. My app works great. Now, one thing you might have noticed is that if I try to stop and start this again, go on to our blog app, I click on view, we can view it. But if I go back and try to edit it, it's not working. It says page not found. And if I try to delete this, it's not working. If I try to refresh, this blog is still there. So we need to add this functionality as well. So again, we'll say when I try to edit and delete any blog post, nothing happens. On clicking edit, it shows page not found. So I'll just copy this and paste it over here. Please implement this functionality to edit and delete any blog. We'll click on submit and it's going to help us write the logic for editing and deleting any blog post that we have in our account. So here what it does is it is asking us to add implementation in the Pythagora description that we had, right? So I'll just go ahead and say yes after reading this whole thing. So I'll just say yes. So now it's going to create a new task, implement edit functionality for blog posts, including a form to modify post details and update the database. Yes, I want to execute this task. Okay, so we now have a new step of things to test. It first of all says publish the blog. Go back to the home page, click on edit button, modify the blog post details, then click update blog post, right? So we should be now able to update the blog post, verify the blog post details have been updated. So I'll just start the app. I'll again open up my local host. I should be now able to view the app as well as edit the app. So again, I can change the tone, I can change the word count, any topics to avoid. Let's make this dramatic. Okay, this time I want it to be dramatic. I want the word count to be, let's just say 230. And I can also edit any of this blog post, right? So I can change any of the topic. So I can make this millionaire. I can update the blog post. And you can see it says blog post updated successfully. And now if I go back to my home page and click on view, we can see the thing being updated, millionaire instead of billionaire. And that is how it works. Again, the like functionality is working. I can share it on Twitter, and this function is now enabled. I can click everything works and move ahead to the deleting functionality. The next task is to delete any blog post. So I'll say, yes, I want to execute it. All right. So we should now be able to delete any blog post, right? So if you look at the steps, it says go to home, click on the delete button, confirm the deletion by clicking OK in the confirmation dialog. Refresh the home page by pressing F5 or clicking the refresh button. And let's see if this works. So I'll click on start. I will now go to my local host. I'll try to delete this app. Are you sure you want to delete? Yes. And it is now deleted. If I refresh, I am not able to see this blog post. So that is it. This is our full-fledged app that we've just created with the help of Pythagora, end to end without a single line of code. Again, I was just talking to it in English, explaining the problems I'm having, just copy pasting the errors I'm facing and just clicking on enter and seeing what it has to say and just acting what it is asking me to. To summarize, the basic idea is to build this blog writer which uses AI models to write blogs for us. And this has the entire CRUD functionality in which you can create, or I should say generate, you can update, you can read, you can also delete any blog post if you want. And we've implemented a login authentication. So I'll just say Jarvis, I'll say I love you 3000. I can log in. We can access the homepage in which there's an option to write a new blog post. We can also view our previous blog posts by clicking on view. We can like it. We can dislike it. We can share it on Twitter. We can also just go back and edit anything that we want over here and update the blog post, or we can just click on delete, and that is going to delete our blog post right here. Now there is another feature with which you can deploy this app so that anyone out there can open it and try it themselves. The way you do that is over here, you see the start app button. I'll just click on stop app and I'll just go on this button right here and click on deploy. So we will now start deployment of this app. Let's see what happens next. Okay, it says successfully deployed at URL, and this is the actual URL of our website. So I'll just click on open URL and let's open it. And as you can see, this is the link which I will put in the description of this video, and any one of you can go on it, click it, make your own account, create your own blog post with the help of OpenAI or Anthropic by entering your own API keys, and you can start using it from scratch. How cool is that? So this is essentially how you can go from zero to building a full stack application without writing a single line of code with the help of Pythagora. So in just about 1 hour, we were able to create this app from scratch. And this to me is the craziest accomplishment of generative AI, that you can do so much without writing a single line of code. And it is actually assisting you. It's going with you step by step, helping you not only write the code, but also debug every single situation that you're going through. And that to me is the greatest part about Pythagora. I would love for you to try it out with the link in the description, and tell me in the comment section what is it that you want to build. And if you already built it, do send me the link of it by emailing it to me or just putting it in the comment section below. Do check out the app that you've just built. Again, it will be in the pinned comment. Also, it will be available on the description of this video. Check out Pythagora. I will see you all in the next video.